What is up, everybody? Welcome to the NFL Draft Bible Prospect Profits. I almost said Podcast Network. I'm powered by Sports Illustrated on the Fan Nation Network, powered by Sports Illustrated. Today, we're doing another NFL breakdown show. We're going to go through 4 teams. We are working through the Denver Broncos, the New York Giants, poor Alec, the Chicago Bears, and the Los Angeles Rams. It's going to be a good show. We're gonna absolutely roast Alec and his bad internet, his bad team. It's gonna be a fun one. Lorenz, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's late, but I'm feeling good. It's a good day. We got 4 teams, jam-packed show, loaded episode of the Prophets. Going to give you guys a lot of insight, and I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. As you're taking the hair out of your mouth, love to see it. We're on camera. Alec, how you doing today?
Well, my internet's a little bit shaky right now, but I'm feeling good, and I'm excited to talk about the Giants, of course. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, but hey, I'm ready to rant about the Giants if this internet can just work.
Hey, your delay sounds better now, so not too bad right at the moment. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with the Broncos. The Broncos this year drafted Pat Surtain, the cornerback out of Alabama, Javonte Williams, the running back out of UNC, Quinn Miners, the offensive lineman, and Senior Bowl stud out of Wisconsin Whitewater. Baron Browning, the linebacker at Ohio State. Caden Stearns, the safety out of Texas. Jamar Johnson, the safety out of Indiana. Seth Williams, wide receiver out of Auburn. Kyrie Vincent Jr., the slot cornerback out of LSU. Jonathan Cooper, the outside linebacker at Ohio State. And Marquise Spencer, the defensive end out of Mississippi State. Youngtown on the first-year deal. They got Bradley Chubb, Jerry Jeudy. Bradley Chubb's an outside linebacker. Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver. Noah Fant, the tight end. And Cortland Sutton, the wide receiver. I think that's an exciting young batch. Obviously, we'll get to this when we get to the roster breakdown as a whole. But I think they had a very nice draft. My least favorite pick there's probably Baron Browning. But Alec, what do you think about this draft? What do you think this young core of players?
Well, I think the Broncos have done a consistent job over the last couple of years in getting some good players. Obviously, like Pat Surtain coming in there, not a position of need, but they certainly were not afraid to take their best player available on their board, and he's a stud. Quinn Miners is going to actually be just a depth piece for them, it looks like, this year, but a guy who can probably clear some cap for them in a couple of years and come in and start. Obviously looked pretty good in the preseason considering he was a D3 player making the jump to the NFL. And they got a couple other players in Javonte Williams, who I really like to be the starter for this team, and probably over Melvin Gordon, but at least to take over from Melvin Gordon, and some other players who they did a good job in this draft. I'm excited about it.
Lorenzo, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the young core because I do think this is a team that on paper has a lot of talented players. Bradley Chubb, obviously, when he's healthy, the pass rush ability that he has. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, both these receivers both have some question marks. For Sutton, it's coming off the injury. Jeudy, his hands a little bit, but Noah Fant as well. That's a really good, strong roster on paper. But there's one question mark, and I'm sure it won't take too long until we get into it. But they've done a great job constructing this roster in the last 2, 3, 4 years through the draft mainly.
Yeah, and I like what they're going with so far with their salary cap. So they're currently sitting at $29.5 million. A lot of that can roll over next year when they've already got $48.1 million. So their 2022 cap's already looking good. Their 2023 jumps up to 101.6, and their 2024 is 193.6. So I think they've got a healthy cap situation. A lot of that comes from drafting well, like you said, Lorenz. Their top 5 cap numbers also sort of reflects this. So they've got Von Miller, their star-studded pass rusher, at $22 million. Graham Glasgow, their guard, who I think they signed in free agency, if I remember correctly, at $11.8 million. Kyle Fuller, the corner, at $9.4 million. Melvin Gordon, a running back from they signed off of their from their rival Chargers team at $8.9 million. And then Bradley Chubb, a guy on that rookie deal at $8.8 million. So that, seeing a guy on a rookie deal in that top 5 is usually a good sign, like I've said before. They had to pay Von Miller top dollar. Glasgow, Fuller, and Gordon are all free agency acquisitions. It's not terrible. In fact, I'd almost say that it's kind of good right now, cap management at this time. When it comes to their roster strengths, weaknesses, and average or improving positions, I give them a strength at tight end. They've got Noah Fant and Albert Okawegbenum.
Quegbenam.
Hey, your delay's back, or is really good. I mean, it's not back.
Nice.
Wide receiver. They got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and KJ Hamler. I thought that those are all strengths. Outside linebacker, they got Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. That's a really, really strong group. I like their cornerback room. I like Kyle Fuller. I like Ronald Darby enough. He's not my favorite corner, but I like him enough here. And then I have Michael Ojemudia. Obviously, they also have Patrick Surtain, who I'm really high on. He was my I loved Surtain this past cycle. I gave them strength at safety. They got Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons is one of the better young safeties in the NFL. Weaknesses, I don't like their offensive line. They got Bowles, Risner, Cushenberry, Glasgow, and Anderson. Don't love that group. I really wish that they would have added a little bit more, maybe on those outside tackle positions. Their interior line I'm mostly okay with, but I wish they had better bookends. I understand going for Pat Surtain at corner. If they were to get an offensive tackle, they wouldn't have gotten Penei Sewell. They would have had to trade back. And at that point, I understand that Pat Surtain is the best player there. Debatable because we got to talk quarterbacks eventually. Weaknesses, I also don't like their interior defensive line. They got Draymond Jones, Mike Purcell, and Shelby Harris. That's an okay group, not a great group, not a group that I put a lot of confidence in at this point. And then average and unproven players. I think their linebacker group is average. I think their running back group is unproven because, we haven't gotten to see Javonte Williams in live reps in the NFL yet. I think he's going to be great. Big Javonte Williams guy. Stud. Yeah. And then at quarterback, the position to talk about, I have them at average. Teddy Bridgewater is probably, I think we kind of, in a group chat, played a game of would you rather between Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, and Sam Darnold. And I think that most of us, except maybe one of us, I think I knew who it was, went Teddy Bridgewater. And that's kind of in my opinion, the lesser two evils. I think he can, I thought so. I think he can do it. I think he can be a serviceable quarterback, but you're looking for a quarterback who elevates your team. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater elevates your team. Fellas, what do you think? I'll give it to you first, Alec.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it was me. I said I'd take Sam Darnold over that group. So the little shade there, Jack. But no, I think that of that, the only thing I would tend to disagree with you on is I think that their offensive line is actually a strength and it's deep. I like their offensive line group. Obviously, it's not complete. There's still some positions that they need fixed, but I like the depth that they've got at the position. They're young and they've got great coaching at that position as Peaches gets pulled out of the room there. Unfortunate Peaches had to get in trouble like that on camera.
That. It's always like that. She'll be good. We're 10 minutes in the show. Peaches absolutely lose their mind.
Oh, Peaches. She's just upset because you said that the Broncos' offensive line is weak, and that's and I don't blame Peaches for that.
I got to be honest though, looking at this roster and to me, I don't mind the offensive line group. I think it's solid, especially if you project Quinn Miners in there, potentially starting at one of the guard spots. Or, I mean, obviously he's not going to replace Dalton Reiser, but either Cushenberry or Glasgow. But I think the quarterback position is just the biggest weakness and question mark off this team. If we got to pick between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater in this situation, I would take Teddy Bridgewater just because I do think he is very safe. He can move the ball for you. That's where he's going to hang his hat on, being accurate, making the right decisions. Drew Lock can maybe give you a couple more of those splash plays, but he's going to make more mistakes. So Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is going to do a better job operating within that offense.
And how about I throw another hat in the ring? Cam Newton now could be a potential guy in that Broncos offense. I don't think he'd start week one because they got to catch him up.
The timing for Cam just isn't good. It's too late. It's too late. Had he been released after
he's a
mid-season
addition now.
I don't know. I mean, he's an addition.
To me,
you can't bring him
I think
in,
you're
but
right.
He's not going to start right away.
Well, I think you're right. I think the thing now with Cam is he is let's say the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger goes down. I think that they look into Cam. I think you're a team where your quarterback goes down for the season. you look into Cam, because though obviously Cam has taken a shot, he's on the downslope of his career, but he's still at least serviceable enough to start, I think, or get you through some games. He's a midseason addition for me at this point. I can't see him signing anywhere right now. It doesn't make any sense.
All right, well, fair enough. Jumping over to the over-under, the Broncos over-under is 8.5. Lorenz, what do you think about that one?
I think the roster enough itself is good enough. This is a good division. That's where I get hung up. So I'm going under. I think they win 8 games. They'll be a really solid team, but I don't think they get over 8 wins just because I think the division's too good. And what they don't have at the quarterback position, 2 other teams have in that division. That's why they go under.
Alec, how about you?
I think picking Teddy Bridgewater to start makes them go over. I just don't think it lets them go over, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think he's safe enough where you're going to look at them getting 9 wins because this roster is super talented. The defense is going to carry them to a lot of games. I don't think he lets them get to 11 or 12 wins. I think that's where now I don't believe that Drew Lock could do this, but I think Drew Lock, at least with the arm he's got, gives you the upside to maybe get to that 11 win mark, but way higher possibility of going to that 5 or 6 win mark. So I think that Teddy helps them on that. Looks like we lost Lorenz with his internet. Hopefully he can get that back.
Yeah, tough internet day. Tough internet day around here.
Maybe it's the air. I don't know.
German air. So I'm gonna take the under. I think that this is a team that their passing game would be their strength, but they're limited at quarterback. I think that they're gonna have to rely on their running game. You can stack the box on them. I think you can press the wide receivers and kind of get. Teddy Bridgewater is a good short yardage passer, in my opinion. So getting off his timing, pressing those wide receivers. They're good wide receivers. I think they can beat the press, but I just don't think they'll be able to beat them often enough that like a defense can't stop this Broncos offense enough to, for them to score enough points.
Right.
I think they're going to go under.
Clear here. I'm taking the over and I'm putting 0 money on that. I am not. And if you're watching, I'm not advocating for you to put money on the Broncos going over, but I'm taking the over because I'm not putting any money on it, so I can.
Yeah, none of us actually do gambling, so don't. So take it with the greatest salt. So moving on to your Giants, Alec. It's the Jack and Alec Giants hour. It's actually going to be about 10 minutes, but this year's draft class, the Giants took Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver out of Florida, with their first round pick. After trading back and giving Justin Fields to the Bears, they took Azeez Ojulari, an outside linebacker out of Georgia, with the second round. They traded back for him too. I was surprised he was still there. Aaron Robinson, the slot cornerback out of UCF. Ellerson Smith, one of the Prospect Profits' favorite players, the outside linebacker out of Northern Iowa. Gary Brightwell, the running back at Arizona, and then Rodarius Williams, the cornerback out of Oklahoma State, the brother, if I remember right, of Greedy Williams, the Browns corner. Older brother. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. You're right. That's weird. Young talent on a first-year deal. They still have Saquon Barkley on his first-year deal. Jabril Peppers, they traded for him, but he's still on his rookie deal, and they got Dexter Lawrence on a rookie deal. That's a solid trio there. But, Alec, you're our Giants pro. I'm going to let you do most of the talking on, all these things. What do you think about this young core? I didn't include Daniel Jones. That's amazing. What do you think of this young core guys on the rookie deal and incoming rookies?
Do you have to include Daniel Jones?
I do not.
No,
I purposely.
I
remember that I did this on purpose.
Listen, you look at this roster. First of all, I do like a lot of their picks over the last couple of years. I don't think that they have been a terrible drafting team. Problem is that they haven't had success with the picks that they needed to hit, right? They needed Daniel Jones to hit. That has not worked out. And yeah, Daniel Jones could potentially be a serviceable quarterback in the league. And I hate saying that. I constantly have to say that. Could potentially. He's not going to be. Let's be real here. The Giants are going to have to draft a quarterback next year. And I think they bought themselves another year I think the defense has a ton of talent. So I think they're going to be able to, stay in games, but this offense has no firepower. Even with Kenny Golladay, even with Kadarius Toney, the offense has no firepower. Now Saquon would have to carry this offense, which he is talented enough to do if he comes back from the injury well. And for those thinking that the offensive line is going to matter, the year before that, when Saquon had his great year, the offensive line was terrible. So I don't think it's going to be that big. I think that their offensive line is bad, but I think that they're going to have to deal with it. Another pick that needed to hit that doesn't look like he's going to, Andrew Thomas. So the Giants needed to hit on some of these picks. They have not. I do like Matt Parrott a lot. I think that's someone who could do really well this year. I liked Shane Lemieux, and when he gets back to healthy, I like that. Ben Bredesen, they just got from the Ravens, another player that they could work with. But I'm ranting now. I think the defense is really solid. I love the young pieces they put there. The offenses need some work.
Yeah, I do like their defense. We'll talk about that in a minute. But when I watched a lot of film on the Giants this summer, I liked what they did on their defense. They have a lot of moving parts. It's a cool defense, and I like the draft class for that defense, most specifically Azeez Ojulari and Ellerson Smith. Moving on to their salary cap, the Giants not in a great place salary cap wise at the moment. They're sitting on $3 million for 2021 and $4.7 million for 2022. Their future cap, 2023 they jump all the way up to $100.2 million, and then 2024 they're at $223 million. So it's going to be tight next couple years. Probably going to have to cut some guys, or they're probably going to have some cap casualties. Good luck, Alec. I'm sorry.
Now, Jack, I got to ask you as the cap guy here, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that terrible of a situation considering the amount of draft picks they have next year? I think they're almost going to be able to use the draft as free agency because a lot of their players are signed through next year. Mm-hmm. But I'm asking the cap guy, how bad of a situation is that slight increase in cap?
Well, so I forgot to say this about the Broncos, about how many picks they have. So they have all their own first picks other than a fourth rounder. They've got a first and a fourth from the Bears for the Fields trade. They got a third from Miami, and they got a fifth from Kansas City. So that's essentially, that Kansas City one you can expect to be a late pick. Welcome back, Loreds. If we're looking at their cap space up close, they've got a couple pending free agents for 2022. Austin Johnson, Billy Price, Evan Engram, Jabril Peppers, John Ross, Will Hernandez. I know you love Mike Lennon, if he's even still on the team. So a few guys that are going to make a difference, but it means that, you might have, I think that low of a cap number is fine enough that you can make it work to re-sign those bigger name guys. You might let Evan Engram walk, depending on how you feel about him. I guess it's not too bad. It's that initial, it's just, there's not going to be any room to spend as well. But they do have the picks.
No, they won't be able to get some big whale.
Yeah. But they do have the picks like they did this year. But they did have the picks, to kind of supplement it. I think that, where you really want to look is what their 2023 free agents look like. They're going to have only 26 players are under contract for 2023. So that's where it gets a little dicey. So looking at that, how next year, how they extend guys for long-term could be a little difficult. Speaking of their cap numbers, James Bradbury is their top cap number at $13.2 million. Leonard Williams at $11 million. Saquon Barkley at $10 million. Nate Soldier, the backup offensive tackles at $9.5 million. And then Sterling Shepard at $9 million. God, I love the Giants. I gave them strengths at running back. They got Saquon Barkley, Corey Clement from the Eagles. I liked Gary Brightwell and what's his name? Something Booker. Devontae Booker. Oh, I think that's a good running back room. I always like the Giants running backs. I liked Wayne Gallman for a long time. Anyway, wide receivers of strength. Obviously, they got Kenny Galladay, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Kadarius Toney, obviously, rookie. John Ross, who, if nothing else, can just take the top off of defense. Tight ends of strength. They got Evan Engram and Kyle Rudolph. Defensive lines of strength. They got Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, and Austin Johnson. I like their cornerback room. They got Adoree Jackson, James Bradbury. They also drafted, like we said, Aaron Robinson, who's a guy I like in the slot. They also throw their safeties in the cornerback position all the time. They got an excellent safety room. They got Jabril Peppers, it's Logan Ryan, Julian Love, and then Xavier McKinney, who's probably my favorite Giant ever. And he's only played like 4 games. Their weaknesses, I have their offensive line is really their sole weakness. Depending on what you think of Daniel Jones. I thought I was being pretty nice to Daniel Jones. I said he was average. If you include his turnover ratio, he's very on average, very bad. But weaknesses: offensive line, Andrew Thomas, Shane Lemieux,
Stands
the
out.
guy. What's that?
I say
What?
he stands out in
He
the
stands
turnover
out.
category. He stands
Yeah,
out.
that's amazing. That's great.
That's a nice way of putting it.
They got Gates, Will Hernandez, Matt Pert, who's a guy I like too, Alec, and their backup for $9.5 million, Nate Soldier. Average and unproven. I'm giving outside linebacker as unproven. They've got a lot of rotating parts, like I said earlier, that specifically play that outside linebacker position. I also love Aziz Ojulari and Ellerson Smith. They're unproven at this point. And then, of course, Daniel Jones at average. Alec, tell us about this. Tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, again, like I really do like the secondary of this defense is deep and it's got a lot of players that could potentially break out. I really liked Darius Williams, Aaron Robinson, both guys who can make a difference on this defense. They got a ton of guys at the safety position that I really like and think are starter worthy players. And then James Bradbury, obviously, Adoree Jackson, the star names on the outside that I think will fit well in this defense. I think they both fit really well with the scheme of the defense. I think Blake Martinez is a solid middle linebacker, a tackling machine. I don't think he's obviously the best middle linebacker in the league, but I think he's a solid player. And then on the defensive line, I really like the young pass rushers they brought in, and you keep Leonard Williams there, Dexter Lawrence still there. I really like what they've got on this defense as a whole. Offensive line is a concern. Quarterback is a concern. Saquon's injury is a concern. Obviously, if he comes back healthy, he's one of the most talented backs in the NFL. There's no question about that. Wide receivers wise, is Kenny Golladay an overpaid wide receiver? Maybe, but he was the best option they were going to bring in. I think Sterling Shepard as your third option or fourth option is not so bad. Kadarius Toney, I really liked coming out of the draft. Will he ever get on the field for them? I don't know. But I would love to see him on the field because he is electric with the ball in his hands. And Evan Ingram will probably be off the team next year. You got, Kyle Rudolph, who's aging but hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities. I think that the team, unfortunately, just doesn't have enough offensive firepower unless Saquon has an MVP-like season to win the division. They'll probably be an average 8-9 team, maybe 9-8, but I don't think they can compete with Dallas or Washington this year.
I mean, it's really do or die time for Daniel Jones if you look at it, because they did do a lot of things to get weapons around him. I think the offensive line, I would say, well, you can put it somewhere in the average to weakness spot. I do think they got some players who I'm expecting to take a big step this season, especially both the tackles that were rookies last year. So I'm expecting a bit of a step from them. But they got a lot of weapons. They got Saquon coming back. It's time to play like a starting quarterback consistently for Daniel Jones. I actually had a dream, and don't ask me why I dream about this stuff, but I dreamt that Daniel Jones had another bad season. Dave Gettleman got fired, and Joe Judge took sort of over as the guy. I mean, he hired like a GM, but he was calling the shots, and he used both of their picks to trade up for a quarterback, which I can't remember. But maybe a little bit of foresight there. Not lying. Like, I had this dream a couple weeks ago, and I woke up and was kind of questioning why I'm dreaming about the New York Giants. But there you go. So maybe the exact opposite happens, but we'll see.
Well, they're certainly not going to get any better anytime soon. So I'm sure
they're actually pretty.
I know. I don't mind this job,
especially the defense. I mean, they're. I don't think they're that many pieces away, but just with Daniel Jones at quarterback, I think it's tough.
I think this NFC East is very quietly going to become a pretty strong defensive team. The Eagles are better on defense than they are on offense. The Cowboys suck on defense. They're really good on offense. Washington football team obviously has a great defense. I think your New York Giants have a pretty decent defense as well. Alec, speaking of that division, their Giants over-under is 7, so they're asking for the push. I hate that. I hate that so much because I want to do that under so bad. Alec, what do you think?
To me, I mean, it's like Lorenz said. I think this is a Lorenz quote. I guess Vegas knows what they're doing because 7 seems about where I would put them. 7 and 10, 8 and 9. I guess I'll take the over because I'm a Giants fan. Again, I'm not putting any money on this one, so don't take my betting advice here, but I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'll take the over too. Absolutely, I like this defense a lot. I like what they did on offense. I don't think it's a particularly great division. I think even the Cowboys and the Washington football team are beatable teams on a good day for the New York Giants, but the offense, Jason Garrett-led offense, remains to be the concern with this team. It just is what it is, but I like the defense. I don't think they get to 10 or 11, but I could see them. I think it's very likely that they're around that 500 area. I think that's where they're at as a team. On a good day, I think they can really challenge even some good teams, like I said. And I think they get to 8 or 9. I'm going over here. I actually like the over for them.
I'm going to take the under. And maybe it's because I'm an Eagles fan, but I don't see them getting more than 2 wins in this division. I think they can beat the Cowboys once. I think they can beat the Eagles once. I do not think they'll beat the Washington football team. I just don't. I cannot be convinced yet.
Eagles fan.
They do not have a 4th place schedule. They're going to have a tougher schedule than the Eagles. You just can't convince me. I'm never convinced by this team. All right, moving on to the Chicago Bears. Their draft class this year, they got Justin Fields, the quarterback out of Ohio State, the guy that the Eagles could have drafted, the Broncos could have drafted, the Giants could have drafted, and they all chose not to. Tevin Jenkins, the offensive tackle at Oklahoma State, Larry Borum, the offensive lineman out of Missouri, Khalil Herbert, the running back out of Virginia Tech, Daz Newsome, the wide receiver out of UNC, who I think was cut, if I remember correct. Thomas Graham, the cornerback out of Oregon, who I'm pretty sure is cut as well. Kai Iris Tonga, the defensive lineman out of BYU. They're young players on first-year deals that I like. Roquan Smith, their linebacker. James Daniels, their guard. Bilal Nichols, one of their defensive linemen. And Jalen Johnson, their cornerback. Lorenz, what do you think of this Bears draft? What do you think of this Bears young guys?
Yeah, I mean, the draft for me, they were aggressive, really moving up for 2 of their guys, and Justin Fields and Tevin Jenkins. As long as Tevin Jenkins is healthy, I absolutely respect it. I thought getting Fields was a great move. They were rumored. They were talked about potentially moving up. A lot of people think, and I'm included in this thing, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are on the hot seat, so I didn't know if they were able to move up and use those picks. But I think that was a great move by them. Justin Fields obviously showing preseason what he can do, how dynamic he can be. I think Tevin Jenkins can be a starting tackle in the league. The other guy I like in this draft is Khalil Herbert. I think he's someone who can absolutely challenge David Montgomery for snaps and run the football for his football team. Young talent on first deal. It's solid. I do think they got some pieces, but it's not a roster that gets me particularly excited. And those 4 guys that you mentioned sort of reflect that. I like Roquan Smith. He hasn't been what I expected him to be out of college. I thought he was going to be even more dynamic than he's been. I think James Daniels is a good player on the offensive line. Jalen Johnson is a good corner, 2nd-round corner, certainly living up to that. But there's no one there. There's no difference maker there for me with that group. And I mean they got some difference makers on the roster, but in general, that's sort of the vibe that this entire team and franchise gives off. Maybe hopefully something that Justin Fields can change.
Alec, anything you want to add there?
No, I think that they've got. I think Justin Fields is the right pick for them moving up. That made sense. Now, if they don't start him, I don't know what. He's clearly to me better and more dynamic than Andy Dalton, but it's not a roster I'm particularly fond of. Hopefully, they can build around Justin Fields though, because he's a phenomenal player.
Yeah, all hope has to come from Justin Fields. Moving into their salary, what?
As it should.
Moving on to their salary cap, the Bears are currently sitting at negative $1.4 million. So they're $1.4 million over the salary cap. That doesn't really matter right now because it's 2021 in preparation for 2022. For 2022, their salary cap space is sitting at $47.3 million. So it's going to look a lot better, headed into that off season. Their future cap health, they're sitting at, like I said, $47.3 million for for 2022 with only 31 players left on the roster, so they're going to have to do a lot of extensions. 2023, $94.9 million with 27 players on the roster, and then 2024, $167.8 million with 16 guys on the roster. This is not that healthy of cap. You would hope that for a bad team, they'd have a better cap situation. That's usually kind of the balance you have to strike. I'm not happy with this for them, but I'm not happy with the Bears at all. Their top 5 cap numbers: Allen Robinson, they signed a franchise tag, or they tagged them. He's at $17.9 million. Robert Quinn at $14.7 million. Their outside linebacker. Khalil Mack, another outside linebacker at 14.6, edge rusher, pass rusher type. Akeem Hicks, one of their interior defensive linemen, at $12 million. And Jimmy Graham, their tight end, at $10 million. I think Graham's a little overpriced here, but I do think that him and Cole Kmet make up a strength. Their strengths, I've got tight end, Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet, defensive line, Akeem Hicks, oh crap, what's his first name? Goldman. Oh no, I'm bad. Bilal Nichols, Eddie Gold. I knew that beforehand. Eddie Goldman and Bilal Nichols. Pass rush, I like Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn, of course. Linebacker, Danny Trevathan and Roquan Smith, and then safety, they got Eddie Jackson and Tashawn Gibson. I think those are very strong strengths. That is their entire defense, every position except for corner, which I'll get to in a second. Their weaknesses, their only weakness I really saw was their wide receiver group, and that's that they only have Allen Robinson. You can just double team him, or put your emphasis on him on defense. And you really can, as long as it's not Justin Fields at quarterback, you can really kind of hold that defense or that offensive game together.
Darnell Mooney disrespect.
The Darnell Mooney disrespect. Average and unproven.
Wow.
I'm giving their offensive line average. They got Wilkinson, Whitehair, Mustafa, and Daniels, and Ifedi. Obviously, Tevin Jenkins could also be included in that group soon. He would bolster that since he's an offensive tackle. I like their interior line a lot better with Cody Whitehair and Daniels. Running back, I gave average for David Montgomery, or if not, unproven. Cornerback, Jalen Johnson is good. Their other guy, a guy named Vildor, what's his name? Vildor. I think that makes their group pretty average. And then quarterback is average with Andy Dalton and unproven with Justin Fields, though I'm obviously a Justin Fields guy. Alec, I'm going to give this to you first.
Of course, because I'm smarter than Lorenz.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, am I up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that this roster has a lot more weaknesses than strengths, and that's pretty clear. But I would say that. Oh, hey, Lorenz. I'd say that I do trust that this quarterback room is going to become a strength for them in the near future. I don't know how many games they're going to give Andy Dalton, but I can't imagine it's a full season. If they really stick to that, I'd be shocked. I love their wide receiver room: Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and then Cole Kmet. I wasn't very high on coming out of college. I'll be honest. A guy who we talked about earlier, Albert Okwegbenam, was actually my tight end 1 that year. So he's all right. Cole Kmet. So I mean, I'd like to be real. Tevin Jenkins, I think he's out for the year, right? I believe he's going to miss the whole season. But
that was rumored. I didn't see it confirmed.
I mean, even so, I thought he was a really solid player at the right tackle spot. I didn't really love him moving over to the left side, but they're going to move him over to the left side, and they feel solid about that, then that's fine. They obviously let Charles Leno go, but I feel like this roster is a lot of building to be done still, and I don't love that for Justin Fields.
I really like the defense, to be honest. You talked about it. That defensive line pass rush group is really good. Now, Robert Quinn making the amount of money that he does make is ridiculous. That was one of the worst contracts given out, and I called it out at the time, and it hasn't aged well. That was just a poor move by Ryan Pace. Really, I was kind of on the fence about Ryan Pace, and that kind of, man, I'm out on Ryan Pace. I don't think he's a very good GM. Being completely, I could go on and on about that, but I would put wide receiver to average. I like that group. I don't like having you running back David Montgomery. I think that's a weakness. I don't think he's a difference maker at all. I think he's average, and if you're average at the running back position, to me, there are so many talented running backs. there's no excuse for you not. You can get one. You don't need to invest a day one pick to have a special difference maker like a Saquon Barkley. You can get someone dynamic, and you can get him for day two capital like a lot of these teams do. And then I don't like the offensive line. So in general, I don't think it's a great situation for Justin Fields to step into if and when he does. But yeah, on the defensive side of the roster, this team's great, and this defense should have a lot of success. But we'll find out.
That defense has really been banking for a quarterback to make that difference. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, cool. All right. The Bears have their own second, third, fifth, and sixth after trading up for Justin Fields. They're over under. It's a 7.5. I'm going to go under with that. New quarterback, bad coach, bad front office. I think that they are, you need a couple years for a rookie quarterback to really take off unless his name is Patrick Mahomes. What do you guys think?
I am praying that the Chicago Bears lose every game next year and the New York Giants get the first pick in next year's draft. But if I'm being realistic, I'm still taking the under, but it's close. I think they get like 6 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I want this team to be better because I do really like the defense, but I think there are too many holes on offense, and Justin Fields would have to come in and be really everything that I thought he would be and then some as a rookie, and you can't start Andy Dalton for half the year because then you got no chance of getting to 7.5, getting to 8. I'll go under as well, and I think with that going under, with them not making the playoffs, that'll be it for Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy. I think the only way they make it is to play Justin Fields early and to have Justin Fields carry this offense, which is a lot to ask for a rookie quarterback. But that's
so
the way
shocking
this team
to me
makes the
that they
playoffs.
won't. It's so shocking to me that they don't want to put Fields in because the writing is on the wall that this is they're out after this year if they don't get wins, and their best chance to win is with Justin Fields. It is shocking to me that they won't put him out on the field.
Speaking of shocking, nothing's more shocking than what this Rams team has done this offseason. Next up is the Los Angeles Rams. This year, they did not have a first-round pick, nor will they ever. So they used their second-round pick on Tutu Atwell, the wide receiver out of Louisville. Ernest Jones, they grabbed Ernest Jones, linebacker out of South Carolina. Bobby Brown III, the defensive lineman out of Texas A&M. Robert Rochelle, defensive back out of Central Arkansas, an FCS guy. Jacob Harris, the tight end out of UCF. Ernest Brown IV, so different Ernest, the defensive lineman out of Northwestern. Jake Funk, the running back out of Maryland, represent Maryland. Jake Funk, I played against his high school growing up. They killed us. Ben Skarnek, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame, and then Chris Garrett, the offensive linebacker out of Concordia. Youngtown on a first-year deal. Guess how many players I found? None.
Well, Cam Akers, no? Obviously
he's injured. Yeah, Cam Akers are good. That's it. All their good players they've either acquired or are just drafted, and even then, not a ton of guys to get super excited about in that draft class. Who did I let you go first last time? Was it Alec?
It's Lorenz's turn.
Lorenz, I'll let you go first. Take your shot on this.
I really like Bobby Brown. I think he's got a lot of strength and potential and some athleticism that if he gets consistent, gets that motor going consistently, he can be a good rotational potential starter, good backup defensive lineman type. But no, this draft, and they've shown the ability to find talent late. I just thought this one was a bit of a shocker. Man, Tutu Atwell, I get what they're trying to do. There's one thing Tutu Atwell is really good, and that's rest vertically from the slot. But that's a really narrow and one-sided skill set for a guy that he might return kicks for you, might return punts for you, but there's not a lot of it's going to be tough to translate his game. Ernest Jones was more of just a guy for me. I didn't see him as that day two type upside linebacker that's going to really translate, make a difference at the next level. And they just got to get solid at the linebacker room. So maybe they were trying to go safe. And then Bobby Brown I like, but even the rest of this draft, massive upside swing with Jacob Harris that could really pop. And then Jake Funk, I think is a fun running back, but we know how many running backs now, how many happen there. And they got a system where running backs really work well in, but I'm not going to sit here and bet on Jake Funk, to be completely honest. So, no, I didn't like this draft at all. I didn't.
Yeah, the one pick that stood out to me was that I liked just as the value at the time, not saying that I thought this kid was anything more than a seventh, but Chris Garrett, I did like the player a decent bit. And obviously he looked well in the preseason, but I can't say that I thought he was more than that. I just thought a decent landing spot, but Jacob Harris is a big if. And I didn't really love the rest of the draft. Obviously, I'm not a huge Tutu Atwell guy. Don't think he's all that great of a player, and I don't think he's as fast as people make him out to be. Though his teammate, who Lorenz and I were obsessed with, got cut, and I'm enamoredly shocked, if that even makes any sense. I'm blown away with him getting cut. I wasn't expecting that.
Wait, who got cut?
Des Fitzpatrick.
Oh yeah, I was not.
Major L for me and a really bad receiver.
I love that kid.
Wow.
I didn't like him that much. Do you remember I said me and Lorenz, we talked about it before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought with his speed, and at least on special teams, I really liked his ability to translate. But not talking about him, so let's chalk it up. I missed on Des Fitzpatrick. Is what it is.
I mean, he could still develop. Anyways, their current salary cap, they're currently sitting at negative $973,000. So they're actually over the salary cap. They're gonna have to knock that down, but it's not by too much. 2022, they got $4.5 million with 41 players on the roster. 2023, they got $90.5 million with 25 players on the roster. And then 2024, they only have $150.8 million for 13 players on the roster. So their long-term cap, not looking too great. This is what happens when you go all in on a team like this Rams team is. They still obviously have money to re-sign players, but they're just not going to be able to keep their core, and add players at the rate that they've been able to do so far. Their top 5 cap numbers, their top 3 sound like, an all-star team in the making. Matt Stafford at $20 million, Aaron Donald at $14.4 million, and Jalen Ramsey at $9.7 million. Can you name, it's just outrageous.
Yeah.
Their 4th guy is Rob Havenstein at $8.3 million, and then their 5th guy is Tyler Higbee at $7.4 million. The top 3 are absolutely absurd. The next 2 are, average. Strengths, quarterback, Matt Stafford's a great quarterback. Wide receiver, they got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, and Deshaun Jackson. Van Jefferson and Deshaun Jackson might not be like guys that contribute every single game, but they will contribute. They also do have Tutu Atwell, who can maybe learn from Deshaun Jackson, maybe, something like that. Strengths, or another strength on defense, defensive line, Aaron Donald and Ashawn Robinson. Obviously, Aaron Donald makes that group a strength, makes that defense a strength in general. And then at cornerback, because they have Jalen Ramsey, I consider it a strength, though I don't really love the rest of their quarterback room. Sorry. Weaknesses, I don't like their offensive line. They got Whitworth, Edwards, Allen, Corbett, and Havenstein. I really wish that they would have invested in the offensive line in a better way. And done that more consistently. That could be the weakness to this team that gets Stafford and that offense in a bad position. I don't love this offensive line. Everything else is average or unproven to me. I think their tight end room is average. I think they, even with acquiring Sonny Michel, their running back room is average with Cam Akers injured. Their pass rush, I thought I'd like it more. Leonard Floyd and Hollins, I think Floyd is solid. I just think it's kind of average there. Their linebacker core, they got Reeder and Young. Young they acquired from a trade from the Ravens, also average. And then at safety, they've got Fuller and Taylor Rapp is a guy I really liked coming out of his draft. I just think it's average. So they don't have a bunch of. Yeah, I like they don't really have many big holes other than that offensive line, in my opinion. The rest of the team is either solid or pretty strong. Alec, what do you think of there? What do you think that order?
Not too much to argue with there. I'm just gonna, the Rams have a really great defense. They've got some pieces. I like Van Jefferson a ton last year coming out, and I hope he gets some opportunities this year. They've obviously got some some guys in that wide receiver room that I really like. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods being those guys. But no, I think that this team is poised to make a run this year, and they're probably my favorite out of the NFC to go to the Super Bowl, if I'm being honest with myself, with Matt Stafford in that offense.
I think this is a team that's surprisingly has got a lot of weaknesses. You chart up the offensive line. I don't think their tight end group is particularly strong. I don't think their pass rush group, what you sort of were talking about, were those edge rushers. I don't think that's a good group at all. Their linebacker group was terrible, and then their safety position isn't that good either. I think what really makes this team tick, and they were on a they were obviously on a downward spiral, I guess, in the sense of roster construction, opened that window up for another 2 or 3 years by acquiring Matt Stafford, which I thought, I guess, hey, you either keep the picks, you commit to somewhat of a rebuild, or you say, hey, we do have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, a couple other pieces in place, and we're going to go ahead and try to keep building on that window. I think Sean McVay is a tremendous coach. I think losing Brandon Staley is going to have a massive impact on this team. I still think that offense is going to put up points because I think Sean McVay with Matt Stafford is really going to work. But that defense was a group that was doubted last year, and I do think if you have those two absolute studs, best at their position, not even close probably, in Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, that helps you. But I think there's some weaknesses and there's some spots that opponents are going to exploit in that division, in the NFC, and I'm a little bit more down on this team, because I do think they have areas for concern, but at the end of the day, they'll also be tough to beat because Matt Stafford and Sean McVay and that offense are going to put up points on anyone.
True. So, this team that's going to put up points, how much are they going to win? They're over on. Oh, I'm skipping draft picks. They have their 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. They have they're expecting a comp 3rd, 4th, 6th, 6th, and 6th, and then they have the Miami 7th. What do they expect to win? They got a 10.5 over under. I'm going to take that over. I think this team's going to win a lot of games. I think they're going to do really well against teams outside their division. I think they're going to go okay against their division. Alec, you're putting up for the over?
I'm taking the over. Yeah, this team's going to win 13 games.
Yeah, I believe that.
I'm taking the over, but I'm far away from saying this team is our favorites in the NFC. I do see where people are coming from, but at the end of the day, I think the Packers, even with everything going on, they've just won back-to-back 13 games. I think the Bucs throughout the entire roster are just that much better. I think that's a team that's really just starting to click, and they'll have a 2-year window here probably where they operate. I think even in that division, the Seahawks, you can never count them out. The Seahawks are going to win one game against the Rams. The 49ers have historically matched up well. I think swept them last year. They're going to win a game against the Rams. I'm going over, but I'm not as excited as everyone else, especially looking at this roster breakdown about this team. But they'll still be good. I just don't think they're favorites in the NFC.
Alec, this is the longest show we've had in forever. Go ahead, pull us out.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back with you Saturday for the tailgate show. It is coming back, and we are real excited for that. And then we'll be back next week to finish up these NFL breakdowns. And hey, next week, NFL football is back this weekend. College football is I know it's week 0 is last week, but it's really back this weekend. Actually tonight. I think there's games tonight. So stay locked on the NFL Draft Bible because we got a ton of football content coming to you, and really excited about it. All things that will be coming out over the next couple weeks and months, and getting ready for the 2022 draft. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. See you on Saturday.